Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's big interview, we have a very special guest joining us, former Ladies European Tour player, former Olympian, and now a coach herself, Fabienne In-Albon. Fabienne, welcome to the channel.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to see you. As you know, Fabienne, this channel exists to help coaches around the world improve their coaching business, but also to learn from the experiences of players and coaches. And you have a huge amount of experience in golf, and we're looking to tap into a little bit of that today and learn from you. But now you've started your own coaching business. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and maybe how your coaching business is slightly different to maybe the average golf professional or golf coach.
Yes, I would love to. Well, as you said, like I'm a former professional, and since 2018, I am a mindset coach. So I'm not a teaching pro, I'm a mindset coach who helps and supports people to be the best version of themselves and to unlock their full potential in sports, business, but also their private life by also focusing on the mindset area. So that means I work with athletes from different sports. I do work with golfers, but also different athletes from like skiers or hockey players, etc. And also business professionals. I work with companies, I work with private people to work on their goals, to also create more resiliency and to learn how to see challenges as something positive. So this is what I do. It's a quite wide range of things that I offer. Of course, I offer also golf coachings in terms of mental training for golfers. This is what I do on a golf course, but also the other side, really going into goal setting, resiliency, and those challenging situations that we face in life. So this is what I do. What differentiates myself from other coaches, I would say it's four things. I would say one is the experience. As a former athlete, I've been going through a lot of experiences myself, positive and less positive, I would say. And in my coachings or during my coachings, I share a lot of those experiences as well to also make it more clear, make it more understandable for my clients. And so that's not just theory based. It's a lot of, always backed up by theory, but it's not a lot of theory talk during my coachings. So the experience is one thing. The other thing is passion. I just absolutely love what I do. And then empathy or compassion as well. With what I've been going through in my life, I think that really taught me to understand my clients a little bit better of what they're going through, especially in times of crisis and challenging situations. And then another thing is activity. So during my coachings, there's always an activity involved. So, we're active in, can be on the golf course, which is go and play golf and do the coaching on there. But we can also go on a walk if it's a business coaching, for example. Or if I work with companies, if I work with teams, if I work with a group of people, then we go on a hike, we go and play golf. Even if they don't play golf, so I bring more people into the game of golf, or we play urban golf, just, do some activity in order to kind of get it more practical and again less theoretical, because I think this just helps the people to understand it a lot better and put it into their daily life, really. So that's what I do.
We can definitely feel that passion coming across. Have you always wanted to be a coach then? Is that something that's after your playing career, it was always something you wanted to do, or was it very much you finished your playing career and realized that you could contribute in that way?
I have no idea that I'm going to go into this, to be honest. My playing career finished a little bit earlier than expected because I struggled with Lyme disease, which was diagnosed just before the Olympics, caused by a tick bite. So that was a really tough time during the Olympics, but then also afterwards. And I tried to come back from it. I tried to recover from it, which I kind of did, but I wasn't able, or my body wasn't able to perform at this level, meaning that every time I pushed myself to the limits, which that's what you do as an athlete pretty much every day, then that illness came back out. So I had to make that decision to retire from professional sports at the end of 2017, as I said, a lot earlier, because the focus was already Tokyo, the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So then I'd been like literally thrown out of my life from one day to the other, even though it's been a process, but I never really thought, like, I didn't really want it to happen. I just kept
like
on
that.
fighting and pushing. And then I was very lost at the beginning, because I did have a bachelor's degree in sports management. I did finish that in Australia, but I still felt like everything that gave me joy has been taken away from me. And so I was in that kind of state for about 2 months and had no idea. I was like, oh, I'm never going to be as happy again, etc. And then I started with self-reflection, and I just asked myself a lot of questions. And I realized that my career especially has helped and shaped me so much. My entire life has shaped me so much that I asked myself, why should this not help other people? And that was literally the key for me to start that business and to help others achieve their goals and their dreams, and supporting them in dealing with challenging situations in their lives. So
that's one of the first lessons, turning a negative into a positive, no? And seeing the big picture. Excellent. Well, while we're on the subject of crisis, obviously we're all suffering one at the moment, the pandemic. That's widespread across the world, and certainly self-employed coaches, which I am and you are, and many of our viewers are suffering the most, because no coaching or a change to our coaching environment means also a change to our income, and etc. etc. What have you been able to do to amend your coaching business, or what changes or small amendments have you made to compensate for the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, it's definitely different, I have to say. And as you said, for all of us, and it is a challenge, but I always love challenges, because I know it's going to make us stronger. It's going to, make us better at what we do. And what changed for me mainly was the fact that it's a lot of online stuff. Which I never really wanted to go into it. I was, just never really thought about it, but it just happened, and it's totally okay. Like, a lot of things are possible online. Of course, I'd rather have the one-to-one, but it's an option. And the other thing is as well, like, I discovered the outdoor coachings a lot more again. As I said before, there's a lot of activity involved in my coachings, but the one-to-one coachings, they didn't used to be outdoors. They used to be in a meeting room or on a golf course. That's it.
That didn't change in that aspect. That
didn't change, but now suddenly I couldn't do those one-to-one anymore. So I figured, why not go outside for a walk during the coaching process? And this is something I've always wanted to do, and I always talked about when I started my business, but I never really did it, because I thought, like, oh, is it going to work, or are we going to be too distracted? What are we going to do if the clients need to write something down, or they need to do an exercise and you're just somewhere out in the mountains? It's going to be difficult. So I never really allowed myself to do it, and COVID just forced me to do it, and I love it. So it also opened up a lot more doors for me, and in a positive way.
In a positive way. No, it's again adapting to the situation, but it makes us stretch our brain a little bit and think about outside the box a little bit to how can we still, manage our sort of customer care and looking after our students. as a coach now, personally as a coach, what have you learned? What are the lessons from COVID for you?
Oh, there are a lot of lessons that I've learned. It's hard to pick a few, but one is definitely to not stick to one specific way. You know, to be open to try new things. And that's what I did as an athlete already, but it just showed me that it's exactly the same in business as well as it used to be in sports. So it's, you know, it's one-to-one the same. So those outdoor coaching, that's the perfect example for it, you know. And that's definitely one thing that I've learned, just to be open to try new things. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to what you did before, you know, but it's, you know, you got to try something new. You got to step out of that comfort zone. Another thing which I've learned was to be even more present, even more appreciative of what I have, what I do, you know, the work that I do, the life that I have, and to mainly focus on what I have instead of what I don't have. And I think this is something a lot of people struggle with, because especially the golf courses, you know, they've been closed, and we're not going to talk about if it was the right or wrong decision to open or close.
No politics.
Not going into politics, but it was a fact. And a lot of people just talked about, we can't go and play golf. And yes, I understand. But if we look back, usually in January and February, we're not playing golf.
Exactly.
You know, that's one thing. The other thing is, you know, look at what you have. We could still go outside. We could still, you know, live some sort of normal life when we compare each other to other countries.
Exactly,
and so really focusing on what you have instead of focusing on what you don't have. And I think this is very important, because it just once again showed me that when we face challenges, we grow. And if we get pushed out of our comfort zone, that is what makes life interesting and what helps us become better, what helps us become stronger at what we do, but also at who we are, really.
Yeah, but success is always on the other side of those challenges, isn't it? That's where it's waiting for us all. So you talked a little bit at the beginning about some of the negative experiences you had. You touched on the fact that obviously illness and a bit of bad luck has contributed to you ending your playing career. What negative experiences have helped you become a better coach, would you say?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. It's like, you know, as you said, like I had a lot of, you know, a lot of challenge, or I faced a lot of challenges throughout my playing career. Not only towards the end of my career, I did have a lot of injuries. I had a lot of illnesses throughout my career. And I definitely know how it feels to be on top and to be successful, but I also know how it feels to be on the bottom and not having the strength to get back up again. And exactly those experiences, all of them, is what makes me a better coach, I believe, because I just better understand my clients, especially in times of crisis. And with that, I create a lot more compassion. And I think as a coach, this is very, very important. So these negative experiences, when I look back to it, it's, you know, I don't wish it to anyone, but it is what has shaped me and what has made me the person I am today. And when I look back, I don't want to miss any of these experiences. So I'm actually very grateful for it.
Yeah, so you can understand the customer in every single area. Yeah, you've been there. There's none of this, well, you don't understand what I'm going through. No, I do understand. I understand it on both sides of the scale, and I understand it at the highest level. So yeah, so that's obviously a skill and an appreciation that not all coaches can offer. So that's obviously a great positive out of the negatives. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's also the same, like it doesn't matter if it's in sports, you know, if it's an athlete who's injured, or if it's a business professional who, you know, who didn't get the job that he or she wanted, or who you know, who had to do a presentation and had a complete blackout, or I don't know, you know, there's so many experiences. Or even now, COVID, you know, you lose your job, or you know, you struggle with income, and you have a family and you need to keep them, you know, going and everything. These are all challenges, and I might have experienced them mainly in sports. Of course, now I have challenges in business as well, but I mainly experience them in sports. But it's exactly the same in life. It's exactly the same in business, and it's the same tools that you can add. And, you know, so this is just what I can give, or the experiences I can give to my clients.
It's the same obstacles, just a different environment, isn't it? And you need to use the same skills to overcome them as you do in any other area. What would you say are your own personal coaching principles, if you like? Can they be described, or were they the 4 things you said at the beginning that differentiate you, or what are your principles as a coach?
It's definitely the 4 things that differentiate myself, or that's really like what my business is all about. But I also think that for me, it's very, very important to focus on the individual. So there's not just one way of coaching. I really focus on coaching the individual, because we're all different. Okay, so we all require different approaches and different tools when it comes to coaching. And that means I work with so many tools. There's not one specific one. I work with so many tools, and I just listen to the client, and I try to figure out what helps that client in that specific moment the most. And I think that's very, very important for me. And the other thing, if you want to call this as a principle, I'm not sure, but just to keep it simple, like not making it difficult. Like, as I said, like, my coachings are not very theory based. Of course, they're always backed up by theory. I did my coaching educations and etc. and degrees, etc. But it's more based on stories, on examples, on pictures, on experiences, and just the theory is just nicely wrapped within those stories, just to make it more fun, to make it more understandable. And if it was theory based, you know, my clients could buy a book and just read it.
Yeah. So keeping it simple, but obviously adapting the skills necessary to the client in front of you. So no one shoe fits all.
Absolutely.
You've been around a lot of great coaches. You've been coached for a long time. I did obviously a little bit of background reading on you, of course, before the interview. And you've seen coaches all over the world. You've been to America, you've been to Australia, you've played everywhere. What do you think separates a good coach from the real top coaches in your experience?
If you said a bad coach from a top coach, it would have been easier, but a good coach, a top coach, I think it's going back to the same, like really focusing on the individuals. Like, if I had a coach who just puts me into a scheme or a certain box, or says like, I want you to hit a ball like Tiger Woods or Annika Sörenstam, or, you know, whoever you want to call it, it was like, you know, I'm not the same. I'm not that person. I don't have the same skills. I don't have the same traits. I don't have the same body, etc. So a really top coach focuses on the individual as itself. But also for me, a top coach is someone who's very passionate about what he or she does. So someone who can really motivate a client, who can inspire a client. And probably the most important thing for me, which I've experienced throughout my career, working, as you said, with a lot of different coaches, the best coaches that I've had, and I had very good coaches, were definitely the ones that I didn't like at, you know, some of the trainings. Why? Because they really, really challenged me. So, you know, I think a top coach is really someone who challenges the clients, who asks, you know, those difficult questions and not just gives the answer. So if I had someone says like, you got to hit the ball like this and this because, you know, you got to come from the inside if you do that, whatever. And my coaches always ask me like, why is your ball going that way? Why is this happening to your ball? And I'm like, I don't know, just tell me. You know, and they never told me. Stefan Gort is a great example. I don't know if you know him, but
yeah, I know of Stefan. Yeah,
he's been my coach for about 16 years, and he's been like that. He never gave me the answer. And I'm like, I just kept looking at him like, just tell me, I don't know. And now I'm doing the same to my clients, because I know this is what makes a top coach. Because when I was traveling, I never traveled with my coaches. I didn't have the money to do that. So, you know, when I was on the course, I needed to be able to handle situations myself. And if suddenly I had a fade, or I had, you know, I snap took my drive, then I needed to be able to understand what is happening in my swing to then actually change it. And I think this is what really is a good coach, or a top coach, who does challenge the clients, even if they don't like it.
Even if you begging for the answers and not getting them.
Yeah,
so you'd say that you know, a coach who makes, you know, asks the right questions to dig out the information from you rather than giving you the information. There's often the discussion about the difference between a coach and a teacher. The teacher's giving the information, the coach gets the information out of the student. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And you've been fortunate to be around a top coach in that case. which has obviously helped you. Yeah, and if you're out there playing and you're under pressure, your coach isn't there, is he? He or she isn't there to be able to say, you need to do this or you need to do that. You're completely reliant on yourself in that moment. And if you've not figured it out for yourself through the support of your coach, you're not going to trust the information that you were given.
Yeah, so and really, you need to understand it as well. And it's the same in mindset now. You know, I'm a coach. I just asked the clients the questions. I could give them the answer if I wanted to, or if I could, you know, but often I don't know the answer, and I want them to find the answer, because if they do find it, they really, really understand where it is coming from. And with that, they can always relate back and like, oh, okay, this is why this is always happening. So I think it's all about understanding and being conscious about what you do on a daily basis.
There's also the element, isn't there, of the self empowerment, that when the student or the client customer finds the answer themselves, you know, that they have that empowerment that while I'm doing well here, I'm able to sort my problems out, which is an important part of the confidence building process as well. So great. So we already talked a little bit about your negative experiences, or your experiences in general as a player, the things you've taken into your coaching business with you. How has coaching changed since you started as a player? You know, how, when you think of coaching today and you think of golf coaches and tennis coaches and other coaches, what's been the biggest change since, let's say, 20 years ago?
I think there are two sides. If we look at the technical side of coaching, even though I'm not a teaching pro or a technical coach, but I think the technical side has become a lot more scientific. And I used to be, and I'm still, if I do play, I don't play that much anymore, but I used to be a complete field player. So I really struggled with these technical things that coaches threw at me. So I usually passed them on to them, and I said, you know, translate or transfer that to something, you know, feel area. And I think lately it has become a lot more scientific. And I just really hope that the human side of it doesn't really get left out or you know, forgotten. Yeah, because I think this is, you know, the theoretical side, the scientific side is very, very important. And what we can now, like, we can understand a lot of things so much better because it's based on science, but we just always need to make sure we don't forget about the human side of it, and that feel, you know, because when we look at the greatest players in golf, for example, they're all, you know, they're all about feel. You know, they just play with this golf ball and they just do whatever, you know, with the hands. And like Seve Ballesteros is one of them. You know, it's just such a feel player. And when suddenly a lot of science comes in, it's like, you know, you start losing that feel a little bit. And this is something I experienced myself, especially in the physical area, like when with my athletic training that I did, you know, I moved into another coach, which was one of my best coaches that I've had. But at the beginning, I felt like, oh, I just put the, you know, responsibility to him, and I come to training and I just do whatever he says. And I realized I forget about myself and I forget about why I do certain things. And I think this is just one of the hopes that I have, that the human side is not being left out. That's the technical side that I think has changed. When we look at the mental side, as a mindset coach, I always look at the mental side.
Sure.
I think it has improved. You know, it's has taken more room than it used to have. I think it still has a lot of potential, because I often ask people, like, when you ask yourself how much or what you think the mental side, what impact has the mental side on your golf game, on your career, on your life, whatever you do. And then usually people answer like, oh, it's maybe 50%, maybe others say 70%, others say 40%, whatever it is. But then ask yourself, what are you doing for those, let's say, 40%? Yeah. And then usually they stand there like, nothing. Yeah. So, you know, just, I think it still has so much more potential. And not only in golf. I mean, golf is a very mindset-based sport. But I think it's overall in life, you know, the mental side of our body is taking so much room, but we're actually not giving it enough focus. And I'm not saying we should take it away from the technical training or the physical training, but it's like a puzzle, and all these puzzle pieces need to fit together. So those are the two sides, kind of.
That side. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, everybody seems to appreciate and understand the importance of the mental side of the game, but very few do anything towards it to improve it. Yeah. And obviously you've performed at the highest level, and I think it becomes all mental when you get to the top level, because the technical aspects are already pretty good at that level. You know, everybody's got that aspect, so it becomes really about the mental areas. And just going back to the scientific aspect, do you think like that the danger is that golf pros can become quite lazy with the technologies we have today? I've had this discussion a few weeks ago with a good friend of mine of, you know, like things like TrackMan and 3D analysis and things, just being able to switch on the computer and say, look, you're too steep, you're coming from the outside. Okay, yeah, that was better. Okay, great. You know, so is that what, you know, does that connect to what you're saying about the human side? The human aspect is missing a little bit in that kind of instruction.
Probably, yes. I mean, I have to say, I didn't have any, you know, I didn't see any coaches the last 4 years. I didn't see any teaching pros, and, you know, I just see that how they change. And I don't want to put everyone in the same kind of box. I'm sure there's some which really use these tools as something like as a support and to back up their thinking. You know, they look at a swing and they see something, and then they just use the tools to back them up, and to use that science as a base maybe. And that's, I think it's great, but we really need to be careful to just not rely only on
the technology,
on the science and on these technical tools. I mean, they're fantastic. It's amazing what you can do. It's absolutely crazy. But and it's a game as well. It's fun. You know, you play around with it, and that's fantastic. But just I think it's important to use both. You know, to use your
Intuition, yeah.
Yeah, I hate that word.
No,
There we see that English is not my mother tongue, but I'm trying. Some words not come out.
no problem. Intuition, yeah.
Exactly, to use that and to also use the tools. So I think really focus on that combination.
So combining like what the traditional coaching with the scientific based support. Just going back, Fabienne, to your playing career, what would be the most important lesson you would pass on today to a young player who's just turning professional, is a talented player like you were, has already a little bit of spotlight on them? What would be your advice to them starting out today?
I think I would have two advices. The first one is about passion. I've mentioned that word many times today, but I think it's so important. You really got to be passionate about what you do, because when you love what you do, you're more willing to go that extra mile, and you're more willing to then achieve your goals and your dreams. But you got to have this fire within you to be successful on tour. I mean, the life on tour is fantastic. You know, it's been one of the best experiences I had or I could make, and it's definitely the best life school or school of life, or however you want to call it. But it's tough. You know, it's not as easy, and it's a tough road, and for that you really need that fire burning inside you. So you got to be passionate, and then you're willing to go that extra mile, and with the extra mile you're able to achieve your goals. So that's definitely tip number one. Tip number two would be to be very clear on your goals, like what you actually want to achieve. Because the thing is, I hear a lot of young players say like, oh, I want to be a good golfer, or I want to be successful. But an easy way to check if your goal is really specific is to ask yourself, can I draw my goal? Even if you're not very good at drawing, I'm not very good at drawing, but like, could you draw that? And if someone says, I want to be a successful golfer, what does that mean? What picture do you see in front of you? And if you say, I want to become an Olympic champion, there's a picture. Like, you can actually draw that if you would be a good, you know, drawer, whatever.
Yeah.
So
it's got to be a very clear, it's got to be a very clear picture, you mean, in your mind?
Yeah. And I've experienced, I mean, in my own career, but also with my clients now, when we're very specific on what we want to achieve, you know, you're gonna make it. Like I had, before Rio, before the Olympics, I had the Swiss flag in my room for 7 years with a sentence within that, the Swiss flag saying like, you know, I'm gonna walk into the Olympic Stadium at the opening ceremony in the middle of the Swiss team with the Swiss cross on my chest behind the Swiss flag. And it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. So this has been in my room for 7 years, and it's been very clear what I want to do. Like, it's not just I want to be at the Olympics, because that could have meant like as a volunteer, as a coach, as a whatever. But I said, I'm going to walk into that Olympic stadium as an athlete, for Switzerland. And, you know, with this being so clear and in front of me, you know, you do achieve those goals. And I've got many examples of this, and I've also got examples with my clients, and it really does work. So be very clear on what you want to achieve and where you want to get to.
Just on that point then, how do you adapt that to your coaching? You know, because I've been coaching golf now, I think 20 odd years. And as a coach, you want to be successful, of course. You want to build a client base. You want to help people improve. You want to pass on the lessons of this wonderful sport. But much more difficult, unless you wanted to say, I want to be coach of the year in the PGA Tour or something like that. It's much more difficult as a coach. So how do you now take those two things into your coaching? What are your coaching aims? Or what is, how do you set up your coaching targets and objectives?
It's definitely a lot more difficult. And I usually visualize a mountain. And I ask myself, what is that top of the mountain? So, you know, if you want to, for example, if you want to be the best coach in the world, or if you want to be the best coach in Switzerland or in Europe or whatever it is, you know, you've got to ask yourself, what does that mean? What do I have to achieve to be the best coach? What does the best coach in the world does differently to what I do right now? And that's the first question. And then you just got to ask yourself, what tools do I need to climb up that mountain? So really, like, what's the top of the mountain? What tools do I need to walk up that mountain? Because it's a difference if you walk up Mount Everest or if you walk up the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
You know, you need different tools. Like when you walk up Mount Everest, you need some more oxygen than when you walk up the Matterhorn. So what tools do you need to get there? And then you literally just go step by step, you know. The top of the mountain, that just really motivates you. That shows you, that motivates you to not give up. But then you literally go from one, how do you say that? Like when you have choices, which direction you go. So you go from one position to the other, and it's just one milestone after the other.
Always the small steps to get to the.
Yeah. So this is usually what I use as a tool in my coaching business and myself. So what's that top of the mountain? Which mountain do I want to climb? What tools do I need to climb that mountain? And then break it down to different milestones and then walk step by step.
And then the small steps. Yeah, okay. Last question. Talking now about the business side of coaching, because obviously we've got our coaching principles, we've got the skills and the tools we use to deal with our customers, but then we've got the business, the paying the invoices, the taxes, and running a business. What skills do you think a coach needs today to run a successful coaching business?
Okay, it's going to be a few, I guess, but I'm going to say it again. I've said it many times today, but you got to be passionate.
Yeah.
Because I think this is one of the most important things. If you have fun in what you do, you go so much further than if you don't like what you do. So be passionate. But of course, you got to be knowledgeable. Like you need to have the knowledge. Like with passion, you know, you can only do so much, but you need to be knowledgeable. So you need to do the specific educations and you know, get the certain certificates that you need for your coaching business. You know, depends on what you do. Are you a technical coach? Are you a mindset coach? So just be, you know, build up your knowledge and keep on building that up. So not just do like get a certificate as a teaching pro and then think like, okay, I've got the piece of paper and now it's good. You got to keep on building that know-how because time is just changing so quickly. And as we talked about, you know, what has changed in the coaching business, you know, it hasn't been that long since I retired and it already has changed. So really keep up on that know-how and keep building it up. So that's the second part. Another thing is to be authentic. Just be who you are, because you won't be able to be the coach for everyone. And that's what I had to realize. I wish I could help the entire world, you know, and I wish I could share all my know-how, my experiences with everyone, but I'm not the coach for everyone. And so just don't change, but be authentic, be who you are. And then the clients who will be able to learn from you, they will come up. So that's another one. Be compassionate. Show empathy, goes into the same kind of thing. Be open to try new things. We also heard that today. Try new things, go outside that comfort zone, you know, have the courage to try it, to see what's behind another door. And another very important thing is be able to listen and have good communication skills.
Excellent.
I think that's very important. And to finish it off, it's my main thing, because that's what my business is all about, to be willing to go that extra mile. So
excellent. Fabienne, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure having you on the channel, and I'm sure our viewers have really enjoyed your insights and sharing your experience with us today. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really great.
You're very welcome. Maybe we can do that again in the future sometime. Maybe I'll dig out some other questions for you. To our viewers at home, like I said, a big thank you to Fabienne today. It's great to have her on the show, and I hope you've all enjoyed it. Like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And we will be back soon with more tips, more help for your coaching business, as well as more interviews in the future with professionals within the industry. So look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.